Wait, remember Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated? Well, you should, as it may just be one of the best iterations of the Scooby-Doo franchise out there. I've talked about Scooby-Doo several times before on the channel, including speaking about an episode from this specific series, as I ended up falling in love with the direction they took the series compared to the grander scope of different versions of the show. Mystery Incorporated took the formula that makes Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo, and decided to inject a new level of storytelling and character writing that hadn't been done to this degree before. Adding on to that, it becomes a lot darker of a series thanks to the themes it tackles, the situations the gang find themselves in, and the rogues gallery of villains used. It both pays a great level of respect to the legacy of Scooby-Doo, while not letting that define what this series could be. It's steeped in horror just as much as it is funny, pulling inspiration from classic horror all around the board, from the weird and unsettling world of Twin Peaks to the theory and pseudoscience behind the world-ending meeting of Earth and Nibiru, also known as Planet X. That's really just scratching the surface. Through these adventures, we also get some interesting guest stars from Hanna-Barbera's past that make for some pretty cool and even important moments in the series. Now that it's the perfect time of year to be binging a bunch of Scooby-Doo, we definitely will be doing that, but for now, let's start off with taking a look into Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, what made this series stand out so much, and why it's worth your time to check out or revisit. From the jump, it's easy to see how this series is pretty different. It becomes this look into a specific time in the gang's life where they have been doing the whole solving mysteries thing for a bit, but not long enough to be considered pros at it. In fact, they are still in high school, still in their hometown of Crystal Cove, but this will not serve as any form of origin story for the group. While they are pursuing mysteries to solve, they still have to deal with their parents questioning why they do so. Crystal Cove is filled with monsters and mysteries for the group to go and solve, but in doing so, they aren't favored by some in the town thanks to the tourist attracting effect the monsters and weird doings going on do for the town itself, as that's used to bring outsiders in to visit. It's great for tourism, but bad if you're a crime-solving teenager. Our group this time around are explored a lot more diligently. They aren't just their average list of individual character traits, they are more three-dimensional with how they are handled. Of course, they still have their signature mannerisms and personalities that we've known them all to be, but adding on to that, they are made to have more depth in how we see them interact with one another, how they build upon their relationships, and it gives each of them their own time to really shine in the series while defining Fred as not just the leader of the group, but a real main protagonist that deeply cares about his friends. Beyond just your typical Monster of the Week formula that Scooby-Doo is mostly built on, Mystery Incorporated features an ongoing plot that runs throughout the series to uncover the real history of Crystal Cove, along with threats that break the mold of what traditional Scooby-Doo has offered before, and much more beyond this. It genuinely delivers a real building mystery on top of the classic formula we've come to know and love about Scooby-Doo. But then you tell me there was another group called Mystery Incorporated that solved mysteries decades before our group here did? Count me in. I'm sold.
Scooby-Doo! Never heard of them.
Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated premiered on Cartoon Network on April 5th, 2010, lasting for 2 seasons with 52 episodes in total, ending its run on the same date 3 years later. The series doesn't just leave you with your typical day is saved, mystery is solved ending to make the episode stand alone, as you'd always be left with something a little extra at the end that makes you want to play the next episode instantly. If this came out for the first time today, it would be the easiest show to binge watch because of how it hooks you into the just one more episode every single time. But on the Monster of the Week feeling front, you do get a pretty fun ride throughout the episodes to then go figure out the whole thing by the end, unmasking the truth about who is behind whatever is going on. Sometimes this can really be over the top and pretty elaborate to explain it all by the end, but it works well enough through the extremely well done visual style and the people we see causing the trouble in the first place, building a more lived in and fleshed out world. For the connective tissue between each episode and building upon the characters' growth throughout the series, the full picture of the story was planned and mapped out from the start, so characters have fully realized arcs mixed into a story that takes you on some really big twists and turns that can catch you by surprise in the best ways possible. And later on, beyond season 1, can either really keep you engaged on how bonkers things can get, or lose you a bit due to the larger ideas and moments we get into. But if you understand how season 1 blends in the respect towards where Scooby-Doo was at before this series, and starts paving a new path forward with new ideas and concepts, then I think there is still a high chance the more ridiculous it can get may not be a detriment, but I can completely understand understand how it can lose people in the later back half of the show. I still think it ties things together in the end very well though. But like I said, when it comes to the characters, there was a lot of emphasis on developing them. Fred's a charming character that comes off a lot more heartfelt towards the things he loves, which include his friends, wanting to make sure that after high school they are still together, and really being into solving mysteries, finding a passion for tinkering with building traps as currently he's a novice at it, but really likes understanding the process and how they work, being overly fascinated about it. But I'm happy he at least has a hobby. With all of this, it kinda leaves him oblivious to the things right in front of him, like his relationship with Daphne, who here is portrayed in the show as a strong-willed individual and has strong feelings for Fred, which upsets her as she tries very obviously to lay out hints that she feels a certain type of way about him, but his awkwardness in dealing with these feelings leaves him unconnected to understanding what those feelings mean, and the series really explores that between these two over the 2 seasons. For Shaggy as well as Scoob, they aren't just your average scaredy cats, or dogs. They definitely have their moments of this earlier on in the show, but we get to see them grow a lot more brave when facing the challenges that come with solving the mysteries. Scooby himself is still largely the comedic relief, but doesn't overdo it just to give the show a chuckle here and there. He ends up adding a nice level of levity to more serious situations that keep the show from being too ultra serious, towing a nice line between a show that amps up the darker moments and keeps the charm that adds a good bit of fun to it all. Shaggy is also involved in a more dynamic way with another character in the show from the start, Velma. Velma and Shaggy develop a secret relationship that the others, even Scooby, are unaware of. Their dynamic here isn't great in terms of their relationship, as she ends up getting increasingly upset towards Shaggy for what's always made him, from the food he devours to his more laid-back vibes. She starts finding problems with this as she is the complete opposite, leading to her oftentimes trying to change Shaggy or make him feel like he has to choose her over spending time with just Scoob. She ends up struggling a lot with her pent-up frustrations and how to deal with her feelings, often leading her to tantrums to express what she's feeling. With Shaggy dragging his feet on telling the others about their relationship, on top of him being who he is as a person, leads to a complicated struggle for if it will or won't work, and even a breakup between them that the characters have to deal with, making things at one point a lot harder for the team to really be a team. But as a collective together though, it's not just these romantic relationships explored, but interpersonally between them all and how they work and operate as a whole. They really nailed down a tone that makes them all feel like genuine friends that have their ups and downs, but still need to work together to solve mysteries. This also extends to the larger cast of characters we meet as reoccurring characters in the series, from the group's parents to other teenagers and how their dynamic affects our core main mystery-solving gang. None of them feel like they are there and gone. They are all given purpose to create real relationships towards the main cast, something I really appreciated that added more depth to the series and aiding in a way to help flesh out the gang's individual lives in a natural way. But with villains old and new, the series does a lot of good in respecting and representing them. Even characters like the Hex Girls specifically get a nice little spotlight here, and I'll never say no to that. To also get legacy Hanna-Barbera characters that are as silly as Captain Caveman, Jabberjaw, or even Speed Buggy, that are used in the best ways possible in the tone of who those characters are and what this show tries to be is impressive, and just a fun time overall. Even getting Blue Falcon and Dynamite as well as others really just gave some time for the series to pump the brakes, but not halt where the show wanted to go. By the end of the first season, we set up a lot of what to expect, and honestly, stuff you wouldn't expect for season 2. The back half of season 1 builds up the gang leading into finding out more about the original Mystery Incorporated group, where they find the first piece of some mysterious disc that drives them further into how it all connects together. They also learn that the character of Angel Dynamite is really Cassidy Williams. Well, at least Velma does, as she was a member of the original Mystery Incorporated team. And we learn about other parts of the discs being out there and what the power this disc has when it all comes together, along with what happened to the original Mystery Incorporated characters, with Cassidy revealing herself to the rest of the group just who she really is. As we exit the first season with the group disbanding for separate reasons, ending the gang's mystery-solving endeavors when they uncover too much about what's going on, Scooby sees the villain Pericles having 2 parts of the disc in his possession, and there, Scooby makes a promise to somehow get the gang back together and finish this case. It leaves you with a lot of answers and yet a lot of mystery left to come in the next season, and I'm doing my best to not reveal all the secrets uncovered in the series, as I want this video to serve as a reason for you to watch it if you haven't given it a shot yet. Season 2, however, ramps up things a whole lot more for both the story and the characters.
You can't trap an omelet without breaking a few eggs. Did you say traps?
When we return to the series, the group ends up on their own separate paths to eventually lead them back together, with more pieces of the disc out there to be acquired. More answers about the original Mystery Incorporated crew are explored and revealed, and this builds up to a moment that I think was the definitive darkest episode in the series, the Midnight Zone, which is the episode I explored myself in a way more spoilery detail way in a previous video a while back, so I'll leave a lot of what this episode brings to the table to that video. But briefly, the Midnight Zone deals with the bad guys from World War II, robot babies, and the death of a character, plus a whole lot more. And a show like this usually spreads out a lot of these more darker moments or themes, but this all happens in the span of a singular, very important episode that comes with a lot of reveals to the plot. From there, the plot ramps up to more ridiculous degrees, wrapping the complete mystery up by the end, and finishes off on a note that brings the characters to a new way of life, both metaphorically and physically. Some can see that this ending presents itself as a nice conclusion for it all, but in some ways be a cop-out for some consequences that happen throughout the rest of the series. The show builds up an incredible atmosphere through its color palette, character design, and music, all coming together to make Crystal Cove a very real place that these characters live in, and it's honestly impressive, and one of my favorite things about the show. Without creating such a palpable setting, I feel it would be a lot less effective in how the show operates. Crystal Cove is a character all in itself. The design of the characters and monsters fit so well into this world, and were done by Derek J. Wyatt, an artist whose character designs are very distinct that when you see them, you can recognize his work. From Ben 10 Omniverse to Teen Titans to Transformers Animated, these more angular designs stick out, and here in Mystery Incorporated, they work effectively against the backdrop of Crystal Cove and the tone of the show. He also made sure that the characters represented the original characters, as they had their own unique and distinct styles that do get represented well here, while still bringing in their own new signature flair. It still felt like Scooby-Doo, which was important in making the series work so well. Making Scooby-Doo a serialized show ends up working in its benefit, with changing up the formula and making it stand out apart from the rest. It sprinkles in other plot points and mysteries to tie together into a larger mystery, while we still get our fill of the usual. It really keeps you paying attention to what's going on, rather than just casually viewing. But not in a bad way where you feel like you have to be ultra focused and go all Charlie from It's Sunny, as you will be satisfied in a more laxed viewing of it. But it becomes rewarding to be more engaged in what's going on, seeing the dots starting to connect and being engulfed by it all. Touching back on after a lot of the larger and darker themes and plot points arise, we arrive at the end of the series, a moment that ends in a very wholesome and sentimental way that brings the show up there as one of the best series in the franchise, at least in my opinion. I view the way the ending is structured not as a cop-out, but as both the ultimate consequence, yet ultimate solution. Without spoiling it, it's hard to really explain why, but it's so crucial to experience the whole show, see what the characters go through, and then interpret the ending as you will. The result of it all ends up creating a brand new type of feel for Scooby-Doo that lets the series really thrive because it stands out for being different. It's darker but still charming. It's more character-driven, but in the best way possible that only works to help the characters shine. Keeping it to just 2 seasons kept the storytelling tight and effective, with the full story planned out from the beginning to be told across 52 episodes, rather than keeping it going for the sake of any popularity this version of Scooby-Doo would have. There was a thought of where a season 3 could go if they were to develop it, but ultimately this never came to fruition despite the show overseas being a massive hit, and another season was definitely wanted. Where it does end, I'm glad it did. It's a series that's not too long and not too short, offering 52 episodes of mysteries that stand on their own, and big overarching plots that keep you invested by the big reveals. The show dared to explore a deeper layer to the characters, who they are on a more personal level, and what makes them the characters that they are. I appreciate that it dared to be different from what has come before it, to the payoff of creating something wholly unique. Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated is an incredible take on the legacy of Scooby and the gang. It's an easy watch through thanks to it not being overly long, but keeping you enthralled in its offerings until the end. I am so happy I got to talk about the show in general finally, as it's the perfect time of year to watch some good old Scooby-Doo. And it's not the only Scooby talk you'll get from me this season, so be on the lookout for some more dives into the Scooby-Doo universe, as well as something really special really soon. Let me know your thoughts on Mystery Incorporated. Did you like the direction the show took? Did you not? Let me know in the comments. I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.